Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Build Your Best Life Blueprint to Success. My name is Jocelyn Charles. Pardon me. I am your host today. I am grateful to be on the board of directors for Build Your Best Life. I'm a licensed financial specialist, and I am here with my guest, Miss Nikki Bryant-Ellis. Nikki, tell us a little about yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Nikki Bryant-Ellis. I'm still technically considered a newlywed, even though it feels like I've been married for 10 years. I am, what I'd like to say is, I'm first and foremost a child of God. I am also a mother. And so, some of the things that I really enjoy doing are spending time with God first and foremost. Right, my favorite time of the day, I think, is my time in my prayer closet, and then after that, just really creating experiences and time with my family. With that being said, I volunteer a lot for my kids' activity and things of that nature. But they're getting older, so as they're getting older, I found myself starting to create a journal for young men
Okay.
because I have my own sons, right? So I'm gonna try my said journal out for my own little kiddos, and then our big kiddos, grown men, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to call them grown men just yet, but they're making it that way. But I'm finding myself spending time just really and truly trying to curate that Proverbs 31 man for that Proverbs 31 woman. That's been the latest thing that I've been doing, is really working on that project.
That is awesome. I too am a mother of a young man, and I know there are many, many challenges that we have. But before we go on to those different, I won't say challenges, but different phases that we go through as a mother as they grow into young men. So tell me, what is your blueprint for success?
My blueprint for success is, I am an educator, but I love education, right? So I believe in being educated in every step of life. And so my blueprint for success is being educated on whatever's going on in my life at that time, or what things that may happen in the future. And then using the education that I receive to implement the skill sets for those portions of my life, and the lives of others that I may impact.
We have to be used as a vessel. And I love the fact that you're taking your education and sharing it with our community and all of our young men as well. Once again, if you're just tuning in, you are watching the Blueprint for Success. We are talking about the ABCs of the Blueprint to Success. And my guest here today is Miss Nikki Bryant. I want to say hello to those who have joined us in the chat. Hello, Coach Deborah, and hello, Mr. Dan and Janice Wilson. Thank you for joining. And we also have Miss Yvonne Whitfield. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good
So,
evening.
Nikki, tell me, what curriculum is in place to teach today's youth in your community or nearby?
So, in the state of Texas, we use what's called the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. I know different states have Common Core. Different states have decided not to go with Common Core. But in Texas, we have the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. What the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills are designed to do are to outline the curriculum for the state, right? The curriculum requirements for every single course for the state of Texas. They're also designed to guide our educators. They're designed to measure our students' acquisition to success and to outline the curricular requirements for every single course. So we, within the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, we have different vendors who sell us, who sell research-based products that teach those same skills. And so some vendors are more lenient towards like technology-based education, some more pencil paper, some more hands-on, but overall, overarching, every single person in the state of Texas who is an educator teaches the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills.
That is great. That is a lot of information. It covers a lot of ground.
Yes.
And that is essential for equipping our teenagers and young adults and the educators to be able to give them what they need so they can go out into the world. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think, along with advanced courses like STEM, college courses, the middle school and high school students, should they be exposed to basic math, financial literacy, and life skills as well?
Absolutely. And so that question is a huge question. Okay. So it's going to take me a little bit of a time to cover it, but I definitely want to get into depth in covering it. So, like I said, in Texas, we teach the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And I don't know if people are familiar with the fact that K-8, there is a focus on personal literacy. Financial literacy is taught in every single math class, K-8, right? And then in high school, there's an economic focus on the on financial literacy, and that is like a half of a half year course credit that every student has to take in high school. Now, when I say in K-8, we're teaching financial literacy, guys, we're teaching our kids things like calculating interest. We're teaching them the cost of credit, not just that you can get credit, but how much credit costs. We're teaching them methods of payment. Like, I know most of us use a debit card, right? For a lot of things. As a mother, I think that not only is K-8 responsible, but we as parents are also responsible for educating our kids in financial literacy. So I'm going to stop at that point where I'm saying methods of payment, just because I want to explain to you guys why I think as a mother, yes, K-8 does teach our kids financial literacy, but as parents, we're responsible for teaching them financial literacy at first. I remember one time my son wanting something, right? He was young. He was like, "Mommy, can you buy me something?" And it was something silly, extravagant, expensive, nonsensical, right? And I was like, "No, I don't want to buy that." He was like, "But mommy, you have your card," because he thought the card was just unlimited money, right? So we teach methods of payment. We teach how financial decisions affect the economy. We also teach financial responsibility within the K-8 curriculum. How money can grow over time. We teach how to budget for spending and saving and investing and protecting. Like I said, though, yes, it's incorporated in the K-8 curriculum, but as parents, we are our children's first educators. So not only am I looking for my kids to get those skill sets from school, I'm also teaching those skill sets at home. I'll give you a couple examples. I have 5 children. Of those 5 children, I have 3 that are still at home, that are still minors. They all receive payment for the chores that they do. So they receive an allowance when they do their chores, right? And so then they have to learn how to spend their own money on things that they may want. And if they don't earn the money and it's just an extravagant, unnecessary thing, then they have to budget and save money that they may get in the future, or they need to learn how to do the work in order to obtain the cash. I have a kiddo who's in college. He learned how to trade stocks from somebody. Unfortunately, that person's no longer alive to help to have him to teach him that skill, right? But he facilitated a certain level of knowledge of my son. So I trade stock, but I have my son trade the stock market for me. I have him watch and invest that money. So like I'm saying, it's taught in school, financial literacy, right? But it not only needs to be taught in school, it also needs to be taught at home. When it comes to basic math, again, that is a concept that is taught in school. One of the things that I find kids struggle the hardest with is subtraction. So one of my life lessons for kiddos is you will subtract far more than you add, right? So we usually get paid once a month, twice a month, sometimes 4 times a month, but the bills keep coming, right? And I'm sure you have way more bills than you have paydays, right? So I try to teach kids that it's important to learn those basic math skills. Another basic math skill that I'm really a stickler about is like rounding. So when you think about like your grocery bill, This is how I will give my kids a 20 in a minute. I'll send them in there to get like 5 things that I'm used to getting. Say it comes out, I know my total is going to be like 1763. I'm like, hey, kiddo, I need you to go get these 5 things. My total is going to be 1763. How much change should you bring me back? And they better be able to come back and tell me that I need my $2.37, you know. So because I need to learn, I want them to learn how to subtract from 10 or add from tens, right? So with that being said, again, it's going to be taught at school. That's a whole set of learning that they go through in kindergarten and first grade. But as parents, I'm actually teaching them to apply those skills in real life, right? Other life skills that are taught in school are often not thought of, right? But listening, speaking, reading, writing, those are the four components of the ELARTICs. Miss Jocelyn, tell me if I need to stop if you want to ask me questions about it. Okay.
Go ahead. Educate us.
Speaking, reading, writing are 4 components of the English language arts TEKS, right? And so people don't often think about how big of life skills those are. But if you don't know how to write, there's no need for you to register for college, because you will write paper after paper after paper after paper. There's no need for you to try to be in management, because you need to be able to write in a voice to be a manager or a supervisor of anybody, right? Also, reading is fundamental, right? That's the only way we're ever educated. We know that for a while in our society, people were kept from reading so that they could not learn the basic laws of the land. So reading, a skill that is so fundamental that people will try to keep it from you in order to keep you uneducated. And it threads itself through every single other subject area. Reading is so important that in the state of Texas, if you don't learn how to read between K and 2, every year between kinder, first, and second grade, if you're a non-reader or you're not performing appropriately in reading, there is instruction that has to be taught in order to try to catch you up and teach you how to read. Now, you all know, as a country, we're low in reading. As a state, we're low in reading, but there are things that are put in place to teach our kids how to read. So if it's not happening at school, there must be a home component that goes with it, right? So at home, we need to read with our kids. I read my Bible with my kids. I read the Bible with the kids, you know, but I also will read things like chapter books with them. My daughter and I, we read the Cupcake Diaries. When she was not a strong reader, I said, hey, how about you and I do a book club? We did a club. We started reading the Cupcake Diaries. We started baking cupcakes. Each time we would successfully get through a chapter. But, you know, we did things in order to make her an avid reader. Now that child is in honors English, making straight A's. So all of that to say, again, it starts at home, but it's a life skill, right? Because you need it for lifelong learning. And when it comes to listening and speaking, listening is such an integral part of communication. So you must learn to listen in order to function in any sort of capacity in life, right? If you want to be married, you better be a good listener. You better use them 2 ears and not that one big mouth of yours, Nikki. Yeah. If you want to.
We have 2 ears, right? So we can listen more than we talk.
Exactly. If you want friendships, if you want to have a job, you have to learn good listening skills, right? And also speaking. Same thing. If you're not a good communicator, if you cannot express what you need to say to people when you need to say it, then you will not be very functional in life, right? You need to be able to speak up for yourself. And then I think people don't think of some of the day-to-day skills that are just naturally built in education. So when I think of education, I think of it globally. And that's because I get to work in the realm of special education. So I get to work with not only kids that are functioning slightly below academically, but I get to work with kids that have severe disabilities. And so what I always tell my teachers that with my kids with severe disabilities is you're going to teach life skills first. And within those life skills, academics are going to be embedded, right? So we're going to teach those kids how to count money. That's a life skill, right? But it's also called addition, subtraction, decimal when it comes to math, right? You're when I talk to my general education or my teachers who work with kids that are resourced or mainstreamed, I tell them you teach academics first, but functional skills come within that. And so let me tell y'all some of the skill sets that we teach. Like I said, it was a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. It's important though that you share and elaborate. So please go ahead.
I want to make sure I dig as deep into it as possible, right? But when you think of school, you probably don't think of the fact that your child is learning time management. They have to learn how to get somewhere on time. They have to learn how to produce products in a certain amount of time. They have to learn how to complete work. Like, how would you like it if you had a house that was halfway built?
Right.
No roof on the top. So they learn how to complete work projects. They learn team building, and team building is so important to any job, especially in today's life, right? And it's also important to any family and friend relationship, just learning how to be a team. When we talk about my family at home, we call ourselves a basketball team. I have a daughter who plays basketball, loves basketball. So that's the analogy that we use when we talk about us as a family and how we should work together. Your kids learn exercise. In PE, they're doing stretches. Y'all, I got a back injury just recently. I went to the physical therapist and everything like that, learn some stretches. But when it comes down to it, I remember some of those stretches that I learned in elementary school PE. And those things help my back just as well as the other. But then like when they're playing like basketball, football, all of those things, they're exercising, they're getting healthy, they're team building, they're getting mentorship from like football teams, Faith Family Football, and those coaches are big on teaching them those man skills that correlate with faith. But they're exercising their minds, they're exercising their bodies, they're exercising their intellect, right? They learn conflict resolution. Think about when Sally and Sarah get into it on the playground. Don't bring that to me, Sally and Sarah. Figure it out. Yeah. Figure out how you're going to be friends. They learn how to resolve conflict without violence or without losing connections with people. They learn respect for authority. They learn how to take turns. They learn hygiene. I was laughing earlier with my husband, and I was like, "Hey, you go to school musty one too many times, so you go hear about yourself."
Your reputation will be down the drain. It'll take a long time to bounce back from that.
Yes. Hey. Get that meta out your eyes. I don't know if y'all got the meta, but that's you know what I mean? But you learn hygiene, like basic hygiene. And then they also learn dressing for success, right? Because you have a dress code, you have a certain way you have to show up. You may not have a uniform, but you have a way that you have to show up every day. And so as I say all of those things, I'm pretty sure you can think of a lot more life skills that are taught in education. But I think I spent enough time on that question.
No, you did awesome breaking that down because all areas that you hit were important. And I'm just going to piggyback and reiterate some of the things you shared because it was just so good. You spoke about K through 8. Personal financial literacy is what they're taught. And in high school, economic financial literacy. And I think if I'm not mistaken, there may have been a small frame in the education system where they've gotten away from that, but they seem like they're honing in on that going forward, which is awesome because our children do need that. And parents definitely have a role to play because we are their first educators. I totally agree. And it's so easy, depending on what your family structure is, sometimes it gets easy to get caught up and not slow down and take time to teach your children things like different types of transactions. You said different forms of payment methods, and because they do see the card all the time, and and they don't know they don't even count the change when someone gives them change back. They just come put it in your hand, but they don't really know what's going on. And so it is important that we are slowing down as parents, especially single parents or parents that may, like you have a large family. I know it's easy to get caught up sometimes because you're just trying to get from point A to point B, trying to get things done, and especially during the week, that you could be in a hurry, you can be in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really good points that you pointed out. And I love that you shared on the ELART skills. That is that was very good for you to break down the reading skills, listening skills, because you also made an example about, getting into it on the playground. You have to be able to listen, and you have to be able to communicate effectively, and that helps resolve some conflict, and just know how to handle yourself, being respectful to one another, knowing about relationships, being fair, being patient. All those things are very important and skills in life that all children need, starting from elementary all the way up to high school. And once that is embedded in their character, they take that into their adulthood. And that's what we're trying to do as parents. We're trying to raise good adults, that can go out in the world and be functional and perform well, and and excel in life.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks. I loved it. I was over here taking notes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So tell me, how are our children with different learning styles accommodated?
Okay, so y'all know special ed is my heart, right?
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, the Lord told me I was going to be a teacher. When I was 23 years old, the Lord told me I was going to be a special needs teacher. And I always had a heart for kids that were like resource and inclusion kids, because nobody knows their struggle, and they're so sweet, and they look just like you and I, and you know what I mean? And so I had to get into that field. But now that I've been in education for as long as I am, and I'm not going to tell y'all how long, because it would date myself, 19 years plus, 19 years actually with a certificate, but prior to that I was subbing and things of that nature. But kids with disabilities have various service providers. So if you already have what we call an IEP, and that's a federal thing, right? An individual education plan. You may have service providers like a speech pathologist, a dyslexia specialist. You may have occupational and physical therapists come see you. You may have a special education teacher. But you're going to have a plethora of service providers that are going to function as one source of accommodation rather. You're also going to have a plan with specified accommodations that will meet your need, right? And so those could go anywhere from extra time on an assignment to preferential seating, to the need for a timer or some sort of device to keep you on schedule. If you don't have an IEP, but you have a medical need and your parent has brought that need to your school, you may have a 504 plan. And again, that's going to be a plan with specific accommodations that work with whatever your medical need is. If you break your right arm and you're right-handed, you may have to have somebody scribe for you until you're healed enough to be able to use your right arm. If you have concussion, you may get to just rest as opposed to do the work in class and just get notes from the teacher. But there are a multitude of things that you can receive in the form of an accommodation if you have a 504 plan for a medical need. If you don't have a special ed service or a 504 plan or some sort of plan that is just made up for you by a team, all students can receive accommodation. So if they're thinking that, hey, this child may need some special ed services or a 504 plan, accommodations can be built in by like a support team. So your teacher would do specific accommodations for you, such as like a small group When I say preferential seating, I'm not saying you just sit in the front of the class. I'm saying you're going to be in a part of the class where your teacher can see you, can identify what you're doing at the time, can keep you on track. You may receive like a special sort of questioning where I know that Miss Jocelyn doesn't like to talk in class, right? I'm gonna give her 2 pennies every day because she got to give me her 2 cents to leave out of my class. So I'm gonna ask her 2 questions, or and if she answers that question, she gets to give me that one of those pennies back. She answered the second question, she gets to give me that other penny. Now she off the hook. But she know long as she got those 2 pennies, she better be ready to raise that hand, or she's gonna get questioning from me in order to give me her 2 cents. So it's the accommodations are going to always be built on this and centered around the child's need. But there are so very many. So this is one of the things that I say too as a parent. If you know that your child has like ADHD, right? And you know that they only clean up if they have a timer, you may want to tell your teacher, hey, I noticed to get work out of my child at home, I use a timer, and when they know that they have this certain time frame in order to get the work done. They may need to take medication at a certain time of the day. That's an accommodation. You get to leave class at a certain time, take meds. If I have a child with autism, I know that one of the resource-based interventions is that they need a schedule. Every day for everything. Everything has to be on schedule. I may give them a token economy. You work for me, I give you a token or a check or something, and at the end of the day, you earn a reward. So just various graphic organizers, supplemental things, different questioning strategies. There's just so many out there, but we would just tailor them according to that child's individual needs.
That is good. And what you shared is dear to my heart as well, because I have a special needs beauty. I have a daughter living with autism, and they affectionately call her Queen Noreen at her school. And she thinks she thinks she runs this castle. Sometimes I have to get in check, but they are absolutely sweethearts because she is, and I know that all the children are. But what can you share about, because I know when I was coming up in school, there seemed to be, a negative, a negative mark on children who needed to utilize special ed. And unfortunately, it didn't come just from other students. Parents, adults would make jokes about the short bus and things of that nature. Have you seen that type of attitude reduce in the school system as far with dealing with other students and educators as well, along with parents?
So I love that question. That's a beautiful question. When Obama was president, he changed the label mental retardation to intellectual disability because of the connotation of having a lower than average IQ. I think that our society right now is much more tolerant than it was before now, right? Because I think about when I was in school, the kids who had special needs, they were on the 700 hall. And they did not come out of the 700 hall. They were in the 700 hall all day, every day. So while they were supposed to be included, right? And there's this inclusion model that we're supposed to be integrating in society. And granted, take you all, it was in the 70s that was created. I was in high school in the 90s. So we're talking 20 years and we're still not truly including kids, right? That being said, I don't see today's kids doing as much of the negativity, and that's because teaching helps and including helps. I have a younger daughter. I have a 12-year-old, but I remember going into her class, and I'm shout out to Mesquite ISD. There were 3 kids in that class. Because I am who I am, I kind of can spot the kids with disabilities. I've been doing this way too long.
Yeah.
but there were like 3 kids in her room. And honestly, she didn't know those kids from anybody else in that classroom. So when I was asking her questions and, like trying to like skirt around it about like, so how often is so-and-so coming into your class? She was like, Mama, she's in my class. Like, and that was just what it was. So I think that as we truly integrate and do inclusion, better than what we've been doing in the past. And I'm not saying more, I'm saying better than what we've done in the past. Kids are becoming more tolerant, right? In addition to that, my oldest son, when he was in high school, well, all the way through school, I always told them, nobody, if you ever see anybody walking alone, they shouldn't be walking only with Jesus. They need to be walking with you and Jesus. You need to be a friend. So as he went to high school, the kids that would have been on our 700 hall, they would sit at their own lunch table, right? And so my son was a cool kid, and so they wanted to sit with the cool kid, right? And so he would be sitting there with his friends, and so they finally kind of started walking over. So that's their teachers allowing them a little bit of space to, like, to be with them, right? And so I remember my son saying, well, the kids would try to get up and move. My friends would try to get up and move, and they would tell me, come on, and they would kind of snicker. And he said, and I would tell them, I'm not leaving. So by the end of the school year, by the end of like 2 or 3 years of spending time with them, when I tell y'all, I had a Jude story every day, and I could say her name because she, because I'm not under any kind of obligation. But I could tell you, I had a Jude story. There's this one little boy with autism. They went to Disney World. The boy didn't have any deodorant or clothes. My son shared his clothes, shared his deodorant. But when I say to you guys, his friends and those kids that would have been in that 700 hall were friends. I've been to school dances where the kids were dancing with them. I think that sometimes education comes best from children, right? So I remember, like, he was telling me something about a TA one time, saying that thinking that they were making fun of the kids. And he was like, if you just pay attention, you would see that we're interacting with them. We're not making fun of them. We're trying to be friends. And so sometimes I think when it comes to that, educators, like when they're meaning best and they're trying to protect who they think is a baby, but they don't understand that while academically they may not be on grade level, socially and emotionally, they're a teenager, and you have to let them be a teenager. So as we become more educated, I think we become more tolerant, and we are able to release. So are we where we need to be, Ms. Jocelyn? Absolutely not. But are we making it there? Yes, we changed the name so we can change the mindset, and the mindset will just continue to have to change. And so I hope that helps. But even with like even with the principals and all that, right? I spend time, I kid you not, educating even my principals. I had one lady tell me before that whenever she's having a bad day, she walks into one of the functional classrooms, and she'll go in there and she'll go, well, you know what? I couldn't I could be a different person and not have this PhD and live and not be able to communicate properly and da 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 da. And she just, she had, and so that was my time to raise the red flag and say, oh no ma'am, that's not how it goes. They're in there for education, just like those kids who need to take regular STAR. They're in there for an education. So let's think about what we really should be doing for those kids. You as the principal need to be responsible for auditing that teacher, just like you audit every other teacher. The same checklist, just maybe thinking of it in a different mind frame. So like I said, we're far from where we need to be, but we're definitely coming way farther than where we have been.
And that is amazing, for the children who are in school now and those that are going to come behind them. Because I think we can all agree we've seen numbers increase when it comes to children of intellectual disabilities.
Yes.
The numbers are growing. And I also agree that the inclusion breaks down that stereotype when children that does not have that intellectual disability, they get conditioned to having those students around them, and they realize they want to be accepted as well, and that they're funny, because I know my daughter has a sense of
Yeah.
humor. And right, and especially middle school age, teenage school year age. And so I recall we were at the fair one year, and Noreen was speaking to people, and and I said, you know her? She said, yes, she go to my school. She's going to my school. I said, oh, okay. She said, hi. Someone said, hey, Noreen. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And so it just enlightened my heart. I was just wanted my heart to see, socially, she was connecting with people who, the other students who are in the general population. And it does help. That inclusion makes a huge difference. And and it helps prepare teenagers into that young adult life when they may be at work next to someone, or out in public next to someone, in the grocery store or out shopping, and that they can be understanding and accepting and patient and kind at the same time.
Absolutely.
So inclusion really does help break down the wall. Thank you for sharing.
Can I share a story real quickly with you? It's about Noreen. Is it okay if I share it? Okay. So I remember there was a fear one year about taking her to camp. And when I was asked, would I take her? I said, absolutely. There are different kinds of autism. Now, if she had a helmet, absolutely not. But this girl is, she follows directions. She's a social butterfly. She's a beautiful child. Absolutely. And so I paired all the kids. Everybody had a buddy. And I paired Noreen with my daughter purposely, because I know what I teach my kids at home, right? So, and like you said, Noreen saying hello to all those kids in public. The son that I was telling you about with high school, in elementary, he would always, they would come to science, and he would always sit with the kids in science, right? Because he was a talker. Okay. Wonder where he got that from. And they would sit him with, so we would get so many hellos and stuff in public. So I know what I had nurtured and grown, and then their siblings and all that. So I paired them together. By the time we finished, remember, I was like, Noreen has made friends with all those girls. She was telling jokes. It was just like, she was just like a part of the crowd, and nobody thought anything different of her. And it was just a matter of, she's going to be a part of the group. Just know she's going to be a part of the group. Don't think she ain't going to be part of the group. Go, don't take her with you. No, I'm not going to do no extra watching, even though I was, but I'm not going to tell you that. Tell the kids that. Take her and let her and show her. And and it's just like, honestly, thank you as a parent for doing your part at home, because again, education always starts at home. But like, there was nothing that she didn't just know how to routinely do. Like, nobody had to go and help her do things that they didn't have to help anybody else. So, and that just goes back to that education starts at home. Like, when I say she would get in that tub and have her little, it was Avon, and she had that whole room smelling good, like lotions and butters and sprays. And she would get in that bed and trying to go to sleep.
She has a routine, and she loves her smell good. That's what we call it. She puts on all her lotions and potions, and she absolutely loves it. And thank you for your willingness to allow her to come, because the fear was that she wouldn't be allowed to go, because in the past we did run into that, and that was unfortunate. I knew my child, and but it was a different set of personnel that was running the show at that time. And so thank you for allowing her to come. And I can tell when I picked her up that she was delighted to be a part. And she still, when she see those young ladies at church, she does her best. She goes sit by them, and she doesn't like to sit with me in church. She does not like.
Because you're not the cool kid.
She want to sit with the kids, her peers. She want to sit by those in her age group. I mean, she was in children's church with them. She's been there since she's 4 years old. And so she's like, I want to sit with my age group, with my peers. And so every now and then, because I may have to sit close to her, if I notice she's been stimming a lot, but she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She's like, leave me alone. But I love that she has a sense of independence, and she's going to do well. So she is a sweetheart. My queen. So I have one more question before we wrap up.
Okay.
So please advise our audience on getting their voices heard relative to needed courses or skills to assist students in building their best lives.
Well, I think you just said something that was very important. You said, I know my child. So first things first, we have to know our children, right? You have to. It always starts at home, because if you don't know your child, you may be nitpicking at things that they don't even need, right? Or you may be thinking that they're capable of doing things that are just not for them, right? So it always starts at home. You have to have conversations with your kids. You have to have expectations for your child, right? You should attend any school related event that you're capable of attending. I try to go to every field trip. I try to go to every teacher conference. I told y'all my oldest daughter plays basketball. I'm part of the booster club. I'm part of my son's booster club meetings. I was a PTA volunteer. You see how I'm in all of those comfortable, smiley, nice places. So when the going gets tough, we can wrestle, and you can know that I mean nothing other than what's best for your classroom and my child. But it has to start with you knowing your child. It has to start at home. If my child is struggling with a concept in school, I'm like, hey, let me see your notes. Let me study with you, right? Mm-hmm. And so, because I want to see how they're thinking. Make sure you're attending parent conferences and you're able to communicate about your child. You may not know everything educationally, but you should know them well enough to be able to know where they are strong and where they struggle. You have to interact with those people that are going to be interacting with your children every day, because they're your babies, right? You love them more than anybody else could ever possibly love them. Even though we as educators love them, I'm telling y'all, I feel a sense of like love flow through me a lot of times when I'm with those kids. Even though I love them, I can never love them as much as you can as a parent. So you have to really show a true interest in your child, know them well, be able to communicate about them. And then if they are struggling, be ready and willing and able, depending on their age. Like right now, with my kids being the age that they are, if they're struggling, I tell them to go to their teacher first. If they talk to them and it doesn't work, I tell them to email them next. And then if they email them and that doesn't work, then now it's my turn to email. Right now, I want you to talk to them first. I want you to email, CC me. And then next, if I don't see anything, then now it's time for me to talk to your educator. And if the educator is still not responding, guess what? Every single person in the ISD has a boss, with the exception of the superintendent. So you start going up that chain of command, starting with the principal. Hey, I need to have a talk with you. Okay, that talk is not working. No worries. I put all of my concerns in an email. Trust me, you guys. I had a teacher taken out of first grade because I understood what she was supposed to be teaching. And she didn't know what I did for a living. She knew where I worked, the district I worked for, but she didn't know what my role was within, say, a district, right? Mm-hmm. And so she asked me one day, she said, well, I asked her, I said, so what are you teaching my child in class? Because you're sending me class dojo, that's behavior. You telling me about behavior, and I know my child doesn't have a behavior problem. So I'm wondering why I'm getting so much behavior information. You telling me how y'all go noodling, but my first grader is not reading at the level my first grader should be reading at. So help me to understand what you're doing. Y'all, my son was in speech. That woman had the nerve to print off the TEKS from the Texas Education Agency website. Ma'am, I can do that. That's not. If you can't break them jokers down, you don't understand what you're doing, right? So now it's time for me to communicate with your supervisor and express to her the things that my child is coming home telling me. He's not teaching me. He's not telling me, Mama, I can read the word cat, but he can tell me about your adopted kids and your and that y'all foster caring and all of this stuff. And so once I sent said email, like I said, the lady wasn't the first grade teacher anymore. Okay. I've had to send another email where we had a teacher on a probationary certificate. Probation is probation. And if you can't get yourself off probation, you go somewhere else, but it ain't in somebody's classroom. And so I politely had to email about that teacher as well. And she found herself working in the office until her contract was done. So I'm just saying to you all, first, you as a parent, do what you're supposed to do. Know your child, know their strengths, know their weaknesses. Then you go to your partner in this thing, the teacher, and you try to work with them and get them to do the best that they can for your child. And when that doesn't work, there's a principal, and when that doesn't work, there's a superintendent or somebody else you can go to, right? Also, your school board members are elected leaders. They're supposed to be working in the parents, to help with the parents to ensure that their children are being educated to the best ability possible. So go to your school board meetings, talk, communicate. I know you guys have been seeing all over the news where parents are finding books in the library that should not be in the library for their children. They're going to the school board. They're communicating with the school board. Hey, I have tried to talk to the librarian. I've tried to talk to the principal. They keep this filth in this library. Y'all need to take it out. So no, your elected officials are your elected officials, but start at home first, right?
Yes.
We don't want, right? Then after you figure it out that it's not you and it's not the baby, it's not the IQ, go to the teacher. And when that doesn't, hopefully that works. If it does not work, if they cannot accommodate your baby, you go to their supervisor and you do what you have to do for yours. But start at home. Thank you, Ms. Deborah. Start at home. And earlier, I had this question with my husband. My husband said, well, what if you can't help your child with their homework, right? I said, well, you start when they're little. You would be surprised how far teaching your child how to count to 100 goes. You would be surprised how far pulling a high frequency word list from the internet goes. There are high frequency words. 95% of kids learn how to read using phonics, but even within using phonics, you still have words that you should just be able to call. Those are high frequency words. That doesn't mean that you can't sound them out. It means that you shouldn't sound them out. And they go in order by how often that the child is going to see them in the book, in a book, right? So you got a, is, in, at. It goes a long way just teaching them how to read those words. It goes a long way teaching ABCs. It goes a long way if you know how to teach letter sounds. Please, y'all don't teach your kids letter sounds because a lot of people mess it up. But if you know how to teach letter sounds, teach letter sounds. But education starts at home. And if you know that you can't do the 10th grade work, no worries. Start when the baby is under 10, because I'm pretty sure you can do that work. Okay.
Okay. That was great. What I hear you sharing, Nikki, I hear you saying first, know your child. And that's important. We have to know our children. But before you show up when there's a problem or something is brought to your attention that may be disheartening, show up for your child in other areas. Show up to the games, show up to the plays, show up to parent teacher conference meetings, show up for all those extracurricular things as well. So teachers and staff can see your presence. They know you're an active parent, and then show up for your children and be a voice for them when there is an issue going on or to find out what's going on. Show up then as well. I think where a lot of parents fail, they're not showing up on that first portion. They're only showing up on the end when they get a negative report or a behavioral issue, and then all of a sudden they're in the teacher's face talking about, I know my child. And you know, and what they may know their child, but the teacher may not was not going to be receptive of that too well when they see that you're not showing up any other time. You're not showing up to watch them sing in the school musical or the Christmas program, things of that nature. So I think there does have to be a balance. And I hear you expressing that. And I think it's also important what you shared, that the school board leaders are advocates for parents.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we think of that. That's not the first thing that comes to our mind. You know, some parents don't even escalate things or issues that seem hard to resolve, even to the principal, the vice principal, or the principal. You know, they just try to hash it out with the teacher, and they kind of leave it there. And sometimes things don't get resolved. And so those are some key things, nuggets that we needed to hear, and I hope and I pray that that bless some parents listening today.
Yes, please. I hope so. And can I just address one of the comments? So Cynthia, thank you so much for that comment. You said parents also need to know that their rights and to ask for an advocate if needed. Most parents don't know they can have an advocate with their meetings with staff, right? And so here's one of the things that we like to talk about in our district. You shouldn't. We try to make it a point that you don't need an advocate for your child and that you're the advocate for your child, because sometimes that gets in the way. But there's times when you as a parent don't know how to express your needs and your wants, and that third party can really get to the meat of what you're trying to say and what you need to have happen for your child. So there's definitely advocates out there. They're free to parents. But first and foremost, show up as a parent, you know, and try to be the advocate for them. And if all else fails, absolutely. But we don't want to punch if we can, you know, be in a good space, because they are with your child on a day-to-day basis, and you don't want anyone to, and I'm not saying that teachers do this, but you don't want anybody to have a grudge with your child because of negative interactions that they're having with people, because they are the people who watch your kids for 7+ hours a day. So
Those were some key. Thank you for tagging that in. Well, Nikki, this has been an awesome conversation. You have shared so much of your knowledge and education with us here today. I pray that those who may be tuning in late go back and listen to this live on demand. You don't want to miss it. With some great nuggets here. Nikki is an educator, and she has been a certified educator for over 19 years. She knows her stuff, and she has a special gift in assisting staff and teachers and students with those who are intellectually disabled or have those disabilities in that area. And so, Nikki, if someone wanted to reach out to you and ask you some questions, do you mind sharing your email or contact information?
absolutely not. I'm not the greatest on Facebook, but if you'd like to email me at Nickena. Nikkena's my real first name. Nick is just easier to remember. So I'm going to spell that right. B like Bryant, Nickena, Nickena at Yahoo. I'm more than happy to share with you.
Well, thank you, thank you, thankful, thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and it's good seeing you. It's been a while, and I love everything that you're about when it comes to education for the educators, for the teachers, and for the students as well. Keep doing such a great job, being a vessel and being a blessing for the parents, the students, and the teachers as well. Keep up the great work. I really appreciate you. And we appreciate you. Correction. We appreciate you. So
Thank you.
those of you tuning in, please make sure you tune in on Thursday, March 6th for Let's Talk About It. Brittany Clark will be talking about people everywhere are cringing at events. And so I think that is going to be a great topic. I look forward to that conversation and what she has to share. And we thank you for tuning in to Build Your Best Life, the blueprint to success tonight. And remember, building your best life is our business. That's not a slogan, it is our commitment. Thank you again, you all, for tuning in, and have a great night.
Good night. Thank you.